Hey, this is PH and welcome to a special edition of Good Bible Knowledge with PhD. In this video, I want to answer the question, why do we celebrate Christmas? Christmas commemorates the birthday of Jesus, the very Son of God. One of Jesus' names is Emmanuel, which means God with us. Jesus, the King of Kings, was a king who didn't stand from afar. He was a king who attended weddings, shared a meal with friends, and talked with the individual on the road. Jesus gave us a picture of God as a personal, loving God who takes time to be with people, particularly those who were forgotten, forsaken, and hurting. In the Gospel of John chapter 4, Jesus departed from the region of Judea to Galilee in the north, and he chose the route through the region of Samaria. This came as a shock to his disciples because during this time, the Israelites avoided traveling through Samaria at all costs. The Samaritans had a long history of idolatry, rebellion, violence, and moral depravity. And there was a cultural political tension between Jews and Samaritans that went back for hundreds of years. And because of this, Israelites would take the long route in order to avoid even stepping foot in Samaria. As they passed through the region, Jesus stopped in the town of Sychar and sat by a well while the disciples went to get food. And it was during the 6th hour, which is about noon. It was during this time that a Samaritan woman came to draw water. In Sychar, the gathering of water was a social event. Early in the morning, all the women in the neighborhood would get their water jars and go to meet with their friends, and as they would arrive, there would be a small crowd of activity, excitedly talking about the latest gossip, laughing and smiling. But by the hot mid-afternoon, the well would be empty. This woman couldn't go when all the women were there. Every day she missed out on the laughter and the sense of community. She is someone who is alone, isolated, and rejected among the rejected. As she came to the well, Jesus politely asked her for a drink. Seeing that Jesus was an Israelite, she was understandably apprehensive. Recognizing her tentativeness, Jesus went on to say, "If you knew the gift of God, you would ask me and I would give you living water." This mention of living water immediately piqued her interest. Living water represented a fresh stream or spring of water, of which the town of Sychar had neither. How could this stranger find living water in the middle of the desert? But if he could, this would be the hope that she longed for. For every day this woman walked to the well by herself, a reminder that she was alone, rejected, and ostracized because of the shame of her past sin. And she responded immediately, "Give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and I won't have to come here to draw this water anymore." But before she could receive this gift of God, there was one important matter that needed to be addressed. And Jesus said to her, "Go and bring your husband, and I will give you this water." The woman responded, "I have no husband." Jesus then said to her, "What you say is true. In fact, you have 5 husbands, and the man you are living with is not your husband." Here is a woman who has lived a shameful life and has longed to find love and forgiveness. Exposed of her sins, she said to Jesus, "Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews say that we must worship in Jerusalem." At that time, the temple was a place where sins were forgiven. And this woman was saying, "I want forgiveness, but my people say it is in this place, and the Jews say it is in another place, both of which are inaccessible to people like me. So where can I go?" Jesus answered, "The forgiveness you seek is not found in a place, but rather in a person." It was for this very reason that Jesus came to earth, so that anyone who would put their faith in Jesus would find forgiveness and eternal life. It is in this encounter with Jesus that the woman not only finds forgiveness, but an irrepressible joy that she had never had before. She immediately left her water jar and went to her people to tell them of Jesus. And soon the entire town who had previously condemned her was now following her to find this living water for themselves. It was at this very moment that Jesus' disciples were returning with food, and they were anxious about the crowd of Samaritans that was now approaching. Jesus spoke to his disciples, saying, "Do you not say, 'There are 4 months, and then comes the harvest'? Lift up your eyes and see that the fields are white for harvest at this very moment." Jesus was speaking of a 4-month interval between planting and harvesting. During that time, the farmer usually relaxed and waited for the harvest to be ready. But Jesus said the fields are ready for gathering right now. Jesus chose this Samaritan woman who was once alone, rejected, and without hope, and infused in her a love and a courage that came through the forgiveness of God by faith. And among all of Jesus' followers, she would be the one who would bring an entire village to Jesus. In Jesus, we see that God is seeking the broken, the lonely, the rejected, and the irreligious. This is why we celebrate Christmas. Christmas commemorates the day when God sent his own son, Jesus, to be born in a manger, to walk with men, and to bring the love of God and eternal life to a hurting world by dying on the cross and then rising from the dead. If we are willing to admit that we are sinners in need of forgiveness, if we believe Jesus, the Son of God, died on the cross for our sin and rose from the dead, if we choose to follow him by faith, then we will experience the same joy and courage that filled this woman from Samaria. I hope that you will receive this living water through faith in Jesus this Christmas season. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time.